So if you're in the language learning community, you have a general idea about specific languages, what makes them easy, what makes them hard. For example, we all know that in Chinese, what makes it hard is the tones and the writing system, right? The characters. Um, when it comes to Russian, everybody knows that's the grammar. And I've been doing a natural method relating to Russian, just pure inputs, and I haven't really worried about the grammar. But I remember a few weeks ago I saw a comment on a video in Russian, and the person used a form of the verb love in a way that I had never seen before, and it gave me a bit of trouble understanding the idea of the sentence. And it kind of brought back to the forefront something that I've had in mind for some time now, whether to start studying Russian grammar, how to do it, what would be the best way to implement it. And I've even asked, some questions to some polyglots when I had the chance, on some live streams or something. And I asked Luca, um, the, the one that's part of the language boost, the one with Jan, not the one that lives in Canada. And I asked him, do you think it's possible to get far in Russian without studying the grammar? He flat out just said no. And, well, right now, we see a lot of that age at MIA thing, and I was actually kind of curious to know what their approach would be because, they have a similar approach to mine, which is heavy input based. And I've been following Khatzumoto's Twitter. He has some really fun tweets, and I checked out the AJAT site by chance a couple of days ago, and I definitely prefer his style in the short form than in the long form. But he basically just you know tells how grammar of languages can be very inconsistent with a lot of exceptions. And I was talking to a Russian student of mine who was actually interested in Japanese as well, and I just for fun, I asked him because we were talking about Russian as well, and I said, if you were to learn Russian, if you weren't knowing everything that you know about Russian, if you were to learn it, imagine that you weren't Russian, how would you learn it? And you know, he talked about how even Russian people have problems with Russian, so I've seen this to be true as well. I have a friend who I asked him to translate just maybe a few paragraphs, and he's like, "Wow, that was actually kind of hard." So I've even seen from the native perspective that it has its complexities, right? So he basically just said, try to get as much. Well, he didn't say, I don't think said input, but basically try to get as much exposure to the language as possible, and just see how it's spoken. And I'm not even sure that this guy has a concept of second language acquisition, but basically he gave me, he kind of put me at ease because this natural input approach that I have been taking has allowed me to understand the language to a certain extent. And one of the things that Khatzumoto was talking about in his tweets were just seeing how patterns emerge. And in Russian, patterns have emerged. For example, several cases have emerged. I've started to get a feel for how to use them in a natural way, but there are still some that really have gone over my head so far. And I think, well, doing some kind of conscious grammar study, would this help speed up the process? But I don't want to get too much in my head about it, so at least I know that I'm going to go the first year and a half of my Russian without doing any Russian grammar, and I'm almost at um, a year and 5 months. And I think if I do some Russian grammar, it's going to be like the most naturalistic method that I can even imagine. Um, so yeah, pretty interesting stuff. So I guess it's time for me just to mention how it went in my week of study last week. it wasn't an ideal week. The week before, I had gotten 3 out of my 5 goal days. This time, I only got 2 out of 5. I'm battling with some sleep problems. The first 2 days, I was able to meet my goal, but partially. The third day, I wasn't even able to really do anything. I could only do some passive listening. Thursday and Friday, I did hit my goals. Saturday, I just, I have my do whatever I want time on the weekends. I watched a documentary about World War II in Russian. Well, I didn't understand too much of this, to be honest. I started a movie, an old Soviet movie from 1988, and I guess the noteworthy thing about this movie was it was the first time that there was a nude or sex scene in a Soviet movie, and I watched more of that on Sunday. Still need to finish, but I'm considering doing something. So I made a tweet about how I'm going to take a vacation month in June and just do all Russian. Basically, people that know me know that I'm an English teacher, so I spend a lot of time speaking English. So I think what would happen if I just erase English and only really have a environment of immersion. And I'm really, really interested by this whole concept. This week of kind of being in Russia in my house because I can't go there like I wanted to. And, well, it's about time I take a vacation and I can't even go to the beach. So I'm thinking about doing the whole Tam language challenge, the 30 days leading up to that, the vacation week. So, all right, well, that was what happened during this week, all these things. Tell me, how was your week of study? How's everything going, your languages? I'd love to hear. Go ahead and like and subscribe if you like, and we'll see you in the next one. Best of luck with your languages.